Consider the materials we use, the manufacturing processes, the delivery, because we are really trying to like produce locally, and then the use time and the lifetime of the sofa. And the calculation we've done a year ago was that we would actually save about 90% of the carbon emissions of a sofa.
We need to start making more conscious material choices.
I set up an initiative called Make Fashion Circular.
It's a tsunami of change.
Saskia, so you built a modular sofa. What on earth does it look like?
Well, we're sitting on it, so that's how it looks like. But the idea is that you can actually change it how you want it to look like. So you could make it a 3-seater, a 2-seater, a 1-seater, a 4-seater, an L shape. And then later on, we'd like want to change, you can change the color, you can change the armrests, or like if you want to have like higher legs or lower legs to like ease standing up, etc. So it's your sofa for life. So that's how it's going to look like.
Hang on, you're saying if I own this sofa here, this 2-seater,
yeah,
it could somehow be transformed into a 3-seater?
No, it's like you would buy updates and add-ons. So like you kind of like you get a starter module like package, which is a 1-seater you're sitting on, and then you can buy add-ons. So you could make a 1-seater, 2-seater, 3-seater, etc. And then in a few years, we hope that we can like update the style as well. So maybe we don't know what's the style in like 10 years, but then maybe you could just change the look of the sofa by exchanging components like the armrest or the backrest instead of the whole new sofa, which reduces waste and is cheaper for you as the user, and we get these continuous sales. So that's the idea.
But if I owned something like this, getting it out of my house and getting it back to you would be a real struggle, right?
So the idea is that we are working with a delivery company in a moment, so that if you want, for example, you want to have new covers, like you want to have a different color, you would order them online. You order them online, then our delivery company brings them to you, and then we pick it up from you. And then when we have it in our company, like in our manufacturing place, then we look at it and have a look as like what's the condition of it. So if you only have to wash it, like industrially clean it, then we can sell it again. Then you get a reward for like looking after your sofa covers. And so we're going to have like 3 different like A, B, C kind of categories. And if it's category C and we can't really do anything with it, then we are going to take the responsibility that we recycle it, or we know what we're going to do with the material, so that none of the parts of the sofa end up in landfill. That's yeah.
But I guess what I was really driving at there was there's another clever aspect to this. It is modular, which means it can be put into a box.
Yeah, so it's absolutely flat pack, which kind of helps us in the beginning to like ship it out to people or like send it over. But it also makes it easier for you to move and get it up the stairs and through doors. So.
And we are sitting on it just now, as you've told us.
Yeah.
To get into this building, our viewers at home won't necessarily know, but there's a very narrow winding staircase, which for most sofas, most furniture, that should be a really tricky job, but you managed to get this up because it packs up quite nicely.
Well, with your team, but it was a bit of a job, yeah.
We put together a video yesterday when Saskia came here with the sofa to show how it's all assembled. So I think here's a 30-second guide to putting together a sofa for life. So there you go, how to build a sofa in 30 seconds.
Exactly.
How long did that actually take to put together?
I think it was about 10 minutes, maybe 15.
10, that's very impressive. It looked very energetic when we see it in that stop motion kind of way, but is it a tough job to put something like this together?
Not really, like it's pretty straightforward. So we just gave it to a few users and they managed to figure it out. So, but obviously the sofa would come with an instruction manual as well, so to make it easier, and we're going to have instruction videos up as well. So it's a bit more like a puzzle.
So you mentioned before it's modular in the sense that people could, say, upgrade the colours.
Yeah.
They could move to bigger sofas. Is that the principle behind the modular? It's purely that people can upgrade and change the sofa as they move through their lives?
So I think there's like different aspects for the, like, especially like for circular economy design, that it has to be modular. Like, first of all, that it is easier, like that you can extend the lifetime by repair and updating, and that it adapts to the needs of the person throughout their life. But then in the end as well, that we can take it apart into material components without having any glues or staples. And so like everything in here, I could like take apart into the material components and then recycle it. And for like that part, it has to be modular as well.
What problem are you really solving by making a modular sofa?
Well, in the moment, they're not modular, and therefore like every sofa ends up in landfill. Like that's because the materials used in the moment, and because of the glues and staples again, every single sofa ends up in landfill in the moment. And I didn't really realize it until I started looking into it, and I was pretty shocked by it because it's big and bulky, so it's quite expensive for the council. And then in the end, it just like fills up our landfills. So with like a modular sofa, it doesn't.
So take us back to the start of the process where you designed this. You were at university in Glasgow.
Glasgow School of Art and University of Glasgow. So I did product design engineering, which is product design and mechanical engineering, which was quite good because you kind of get the base of like actually doing all the testing and then actually building something in product design. And so I worked for a research institute during the summers looking into circular economy, and I was totally intrigued by it. And I was like, this is the future. Like there's nothing, like we have to change. There's no way that we can go forward like that. So I was like, okay, how can I translate that into product design? And I wanted to strategically redesign a product without, like in a uni setting, without having to think about the kind of economic considerations, and just always make the sustainable decision. And then I was like, okay, sofa is a very iconic household product. And I started looking into that, and I started talking to users and went to the recycling centers and just kind of like really got engaged and like figured out what's the problem. And so on the one side, it was that it's not recyclable and it ends up in landfill. And then on the other side, I talked to all the users, and they were like, well, they couldn't wash it, they couldn't repair them, they couldn't transport them, and they couldn't change the size or the color or the styling. So that was the main reasons they were throwing sofas out in the first place. And then I just started conceptualizing and they had loads of prototypes and started building the sofas. And then since a year, we've been growing with a little team, and they really helped to make the sofa like manufacturable, economically viable, and it looks much nicer as well. So that was our journey so far.
Do you think this appeals to a particular demographic?
So I think there's like different selling points for different demographics. So obviously I think the modularity and the portability really like works for younger people that move quite often nowadays, and people that are renting and then like just kind of like stay in a place for a few years, and then instead of having if the sofa can adapt to different spaces, I think that's quite clever. But then because the covers are washable and you can exchange the kind of cushions, that like really works for families as well, and like people that own pets. So I think that's kind of in the kind of democrat. And then we've been talking to businesses as well because they're quite interested to like show their corporate social responsibility. And as this is kind of the first touch point for any client in the reception area, it's like, well, do you want to start telling your story of the circular economy already in the reception area? Yeah.
Nice idea, yeah. And I like this idea of customers being able to return parts. So you envisage having a relationship with customers beyond that sale?
Yeah. So I think it's really important that because we already know that recycling is so difficult and we're not going to have a bin at home for everything. So I think it's really important for businesses to take this responsibility and try to get their materials back, which in the end, so we've done a financial model, and I mean, it's really hard. I think that's one of the tricky parts because it's not been really done before. So it's really like you have to kind of start from scratch with like these financial models. But in the end, we hope that we actually can make a profit by then like selling the components we get back second-hand again. And or like be able to reuse the materials we're getting back in the cushions again. But yeah, so I think that's quite important for the circular economy part.
And I understand you've done a comparison in terms of life cycle use, carbon emissions, your sofa versus the typical sofa. Can you tell us about what you found?
So the problem with conventional sofas is the materials that are used. So it's the kind of like the plastic foams are not just that it is fossil fuels, but it's also the gases used in the foams are really like bad for the environment. And then most of the covers and sofas are kind of polyester, and then everything is glued and stapled together. And then the whole sofa is covered in fire retardants, like the chemical fire retardants, because the foams are so flammable. So I think that like the kind of material choice is very unsustainable. And then that kind of translates back that in the end you can't recycle it. And so that's kind of the biggest impact of it. And then we did a lifecycle assessment where we considered the materials we use, the manufacturing processes, the delivery, because we are really trying to like produce locally, and then the use time and the lifetime of the sofa. And the calculation we've done a year ago was that we would actually save about 90% of the carbon emissions of a sofa.
Usually when people talk about those type of environmental benefits, that comes with a cost to the user, because it costs more to produce, there's standards to be met and so on. How does, tell us something about pricing versus typical sofas?
So our sofa is going to be a bit, like it's going to be more expensive than a sofa that you get in IKEA, but I don't think we can be compared to IKEA. Throughout our process, it was a learning curve for us because I didn't realize how much more expensive it is to produce locally. And I don't want to go away from that because I think it's really important for the economy, for the environment, and also like ethically, I think it's really important that we pay people the right wages. So, but going through that process and like realizing that that puts up the cost, I'm just looking at every product I own. I'm like, how on earth can I buy that so cheaply? So it's a bit shocking actually. Yeah, we don't. So.
Yes, heard that sort of tale before. Really impressive that you're looking at that whole every side of the picture.
Yeah.
A question's come in here asking, are you considering any other household products, or have you got enough on your plate with sofas for now?
So just now we're doing sofas, but our name of the company is Designed for Life Limited, and our aim is that we want to redesign everything we own at home, so that we can have a bed for life, a table for life, kitchen for life, curtains for life, etc. So because I do think that we have to, like, if we want to facilitate a circular economy, we have to start with the products and the product design, that they can facilitate a circular economy. Yeah.
Okay, you've told us a great deal about the what. We know what the sofa is, we know why you've developed it, but how did you go about moving from the concept of, hey, we could make a sofa here, to actually doing it? What sort of background did you have that enabled you to put all of this together?
So I've done product design engineering, which was really helpful for like actually like the product design, and like also the kind of like graphically being able to present it well. But I've been winning a few awards like quite early on, and they had like business trainings in it, and then we had really good business advisors and a really good kind of support network, and they really helped to kind of like guide us through the steps to where we are now, and like it helped financially and like the kind of like support wise, which was really like really important because I mean I don't have a business background and I've been learning so much, but I think that's like what I enjoy most in the moment, that it's like every day is different. It's like every day I learn something new. Like today I'm here.
I guess what you're saying is you're becoming more well-rounded as a result of setting up your own company.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And you're about to launch this on Kickstarter.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So we are going to be at the London Design Fair next week for people to like be able to actually have a seat on it. And then in the beginning of October, we're going to do our Kickstarter campaign where people can support us, and they can buy sofas. And then we are going to produce them afterwards, and then like hopefully like deliver them in the next, like in the beginning of 2020.